In 1933, a painting went up for sale in Germany, a dark, silent island, surrounded by black water, with a small boat approaching its shore, carrying a coffin and a figure dressed entirely in white. The man who bought it was not an art collector in the traditional sense. He was a failed painter himself, a man obsessed with grandeur, myth, and death. His name was Adolf Hitler. He hung this painting first in his private residence in the mountains, and later, in 1940, he moved it to the new Reich Chancellery in Berlin, where it stayed until the end of the war. Today, that same painting hangs in a museum, and millions of people walk past it every year, most of them with no idea of where it once lived. This is the story of Isle of the Dead, one of the most reproduced, most obsessed over paintings in modern history, and the story of the strange, uncomfortable list of men who could not stop looking at it. To understand why, we have to go back to Florence, and to a painter named Arnold Böcklin. Böcklin was Swiss, born in Basel in 1827, and by the time he reached his 50s, he was already known as one of the great voices of symbolism. An art movement obsessed not with copying reality, but with painting what cannot be seen: dreams, death, the soul. In 1880, a grieving widow named Marie Berner commissioned a painting from him. She had just lost her husband, and she asked Böcklin for something very specific: a picture she could dream by, not decorate a wall with, dream by. Böcklin gave her exactly that. He had been walking through the English cemetery in Florence, near the Piazzale Donatello, studying its cypress trees and stone tombs cut into rock. He took that image and pushed it into something else entirely, something that felt less like a cemetery and more like a threshold. The final composition never changes much between versions. A rowboat glides across still, black water. An oarsman rows it forward in silence, and standing at the bow, facing the island, wrapped completely in white, is a figure whose face we never see. Behind them, resting in the boat, is a plain wooden coffin. Ahead of them, the island itself. Sheer cliffs, carved with dark openings that look uncomfortably like tombs. And rising straight up from the rock, a dense wall of cypress trees, the tree that, since antiquity, has been planted in cemeteries across the Mediterranean, because once it's cut, it never grows back. Böcklin never explained who the white figure is. He never confirmed it was Charon, the ferryman of Greek myth. He never confirmed it was death itself, or the soul of the deceased, or even a mourner. When asked, he simply called it a dream picture. And maybe that refusal to explain is exactly why it became so powerful. Between 1880 and 1886, Böcklin painted this same haunting scene 5 separate times, with small variations in each. The color of the sky, the shape of the cliffs, the posture of the figure in white. A 6th version exists too, completed by his son after his death. But it's the 3rd version, painted in 1883 for his art dealer, Fritz Gerlit. That carries the darkest history of them all, because that is the one Hitler bought. He didn't just admire it from a distance. He acquired it in 1933, the very year he came to power, and he kept it close for the rest of his life. First at his mountain retreat, then in the heart of Nazi Germany's government itself. A painting about death, silence, and the final crossing, hanging in the office of a man who would orchestrate the deaths of millions. And here's the part that gets stranger. Hitler was not the only powerful man who couldn't look away from this image, not even close. By the early 1900s, reproductions of Isle of the Dead were everywhere in Central Europe. Vladimir Nabokov once wrote that a print of it could be found in almost every home in Berlin. It hung in living rooms, in doctors' offices, in the studies of the powerful. Sigmund Freud kept a print of it above his desk in Vienna. Vladimir Lenin reportedly kept one too. And French statesman Georges Clemenceau, the man who helped negotiate the end of the First World War, had it in his office as well. Think about that for a second. A psychoanalyst obsessed with the unconscious mind, a revolutionary who reshaped the entire 20th century, a statesman who signed the peace after the deadliest war humanity had ever seen, and a dictator who would go on to start an even deadlier one. All of them, at some point, sat across from the same silent island. The same boat, the same figure, in white, facing away from the world. It's almost too strange to be a coincidence. and yet nobody can fully explain why this particular image had that kind of grip. Maybe it's the ambiguity. The painting refuses to resolve itself. You don't know if the white figure is arriving or has already arrived. You don't know if the coffin holds a stranger or if somehow it's meant to hold you. The composer Sergei Rachmaninoff felt that pull too, but through a black and white photograph, not the original. In 1907, he saw a monochrome reproduction of the painting and was so shaken by it that he composed an entire symphonic tone poem based on it in 1909. Later, when he finally saw the real, full-color version in person, he admitted he was almost disappointed. He said if he had seen the color first, he might never have written the music at all. The grey, lifeless reproduction had unlocked something in him that the actual painting, with all its blues and greens, somehow couldn't. Even Hollywood eventually came for it. In 1945, producer Val Lewton used Böcklin's composition directly in the opening credits of a horror film literally titled Isle of the Dead. Now, back to the paintings themselves, because their fates are almost as haunting as the image itself. The third version, Hitler's version, survived the war. It was recovered afterward and now hangs quietly in the Alte National Gallery in Berlin, a museum open to the public where anyone can walk up and stand in front of the exact painting that once watched over the Nazi high command. The fourth version had a darker ending. It was bought by the Baron Heinrich Thyssen and hung in a bank in Berlin until it was destroyed in an Allied bombing raid during the war. It survives today only as a black and white photograph, which, in a strange twist, is exactly how Rachmaninoff first fell in love with the image. The fifth version still hangs in Leipzig, the first in Basel. A sixth, unfinished at Böcklin's death and completed by his son, sits today in the Hermitage in St. Petersburg. 5 islands, 5 boats, 5 coffins, scattered now across the world in the exact cities their century tore itself apart over. Böcklin died in 1901, more than a decade before any of this history unfolded. He never knew his quiet, dreamlike painting would end up in the hands of dictators and revolutionaries. He never knew it would outlive empires. He just wanted to paint a place quiet enough to dream in. So I'll leave you with the same question historians still argue about today. Is the figure in white a soul being carried to judgment? Is it Charon ferrying the dead across the river Styx? Or is it simply us, every person who has ever stood in front of this painting, staring at an island we can't quite reach and can't quite look away from either? Let me know what you think this painting is really about. If you are watching till now, thank you. Hyping up this video up and subscribing will help us a lot. I'll see you in the next one.